everybody, on today's video we're going to take a look at the adjustable camber plates on the 2020 GT500. These plates come screwed or locked into position from the factory. I can only assume it's so the factory doesn't have to worry about that adjustment when sending the cars out the door. But if you want to do the track alignment on these cars, you got to get those screws out. I've got my carbon fiber track pack up on the lift. I've got my carbon fiber front wheels removed. We're going to take a look at these, and I'm going to actually work on getting those screws out. Now these plates, adjustable plates, come on the carbon fiber track pack. The earlier cars, I think it was the Job 1 cars, came with them in the trunk. The later cars, probably the Job 2 cars, came with them actually installed. And if you have a base car, you can actually add these to your car if you want to do the track alignment. So here we go, we're going to take these screws out. Thanks for watching. Before I go raising the car up and do some disassembly, we're just going to take a look up inside the wheel well here. First off, shout out to Tomster over on Mustang 6G, who's got some good information about this online. There's also good information in the 2020 Ford Mustang Workshop Manual. But when you look up here at the top of the strut, you're going to see 3 receiving nuts. You probably can only see 2 from this angle. But if you see bolts sticking down through those nuts, your caster camber plates are pinned from the factory, and those bolts or screws really need to be removed in order to get the track alignment set. All right, next up, this nut needs to come out of the, this is this front suspension position sensor, and this is a 13 millimeter, I believe. Let me check that. Yep, that is a 13 millimeter, and this needs to come out. Take notice of how this arm is. The elbow, if you will, points towards the front of the car, and the nut is on the back side of this lower control arm. There we go. Next up, we are going to take this nut off right here. It is an 18 millimeter, and you're going to need an 8 millimeter hex head holder, little wrench on the end there to keep it from spinning. Right here, 8 millimeter goes on the end, and take that nut off. And it's off. I raised the car up another notch just so I can get my stand underneath the rotor here, protected with a towel. And this stand has a foot pedal on it to raise it up. And that's going to allow me to raise the strut to align that bolt so I can slide that out. If you can see it moving there while I press the pedal. So press the pedal, and that now slides out. And lower the pedal back down. Next on Ford's instructions are to remove this inside clip here, not the forward one, but the inside or the back one. Remove this wire holder, and then down here, the other side here, there's 2 that hold this line here. So probably need a trim removal tool to pry that out, which I'll grab. That one's out. All right, for the bottom one, it's kind of harder to get to because of the big ass rotors in the way. I've got a metal push pin removal tool. Sticking it in, probably from the top would work better. There we go. And that's out. We're looking at the back side of the strut here. Front of the car is that way. So the next step is to unhook this electrical connector here. So I'm just going to pinch in the tabs with those pliers. and pull off that connector. And then Ford's instructions say to unclip it too, which I got to get a better angle to see that. I pulled this, I think this is the ABS sensor. I pulled this out of the way using a trim piece removal tool, just so I could see what's going on back here. I'm pretty sure we have to remove this one as well. I've got a heavier duty metal removal tool here. I'm gonna stick that underneath there and pull out. There we go. And that aft sensor wire is removed. So if you're wondering why we have to remove all these connectors and push pin holders, this whole strut's going to drop down while we go to remove the pins up top. And that'll put stress on the wires, you know, take them to the limits and possibly break them. So you gotta create some play, so to speak, in these lines, wires, and connectors. All right, a little intermission while I narrate something here. The Ford instructions have you remove these push pins and disconnect the connectors to create slack that allows you to lower the strut all the way down to access the 3 pin screws from the top side of the strut from inside the fender well. I'm not sure this is entirely necessary because I ended up removing the pins through holes at the top of the strut towers themselves. You'll see later in this video I just moved the strut around inside the strut tower and lined the pins up with the holes for easy access. I think this is a smarter way to go about it versus lowering it all the way down. Back to disassembly. Next on deck, Ford's instructions say to remove these 3 nuts, but we need to support the suspension because it's going to drop down. You know, the weight of all that's pretty heavy. So we're going to set up my jack stand underneath the front driver's side suspension. I got the car up higher using my lift, and I've got this floor jack underneath the rotor to support the weight as I undo the nuts on the top. Now the rotor doesn't have the wheel on there, so you got to be careful the rotor doesn't come loose. I don't have any open lug nuts, so I just did this little temp job here. I cut some 3/4 inch PVC pipe. I cut it to about 2 inches, screwed on my lug nuts to lock the rotor down there so it doesn't wiggle. And next, going up top, I'm gonna have to use a ladder because the car is way up in the air because of my tall floor jack. Gonna get up on the ladder and go take off the nuts. So the 3 nuts on the top side are 15 millimeter, and I'm gonna use both hands here. Just loosen all 3 a little bit first. I'm not taking them out just yet. And I have the rotor supported underneath, so this is not dropping down. I'm just going to leave those on for safety while I go lower it just a little bit on the bottom. Now I'm going to lower the front driver's side suspension, and I can see strut top is starting to come down as I lower it. There's the light right there, and I'll lower it. Time to go loosen those nuts some more up top. Just lowering the whole setup, and you can see it coming down. And I'm going to put the camera down so I can have both hands to catch the strut. The Ford's instructions talk about lowering this whole control arm far enough to get the strut out to work on removing those screws from inside the fender well. I don't think I want to drop it that far. I don't even know if it can drop that far. I don't know if that pertains to the GT500 specifically, but from the top side, if you just move the strut around inside there, you can actually get access to, here, let's see if I can, I'm going to shine the light down the hole. But you can see I've got a, that's a 5/32 bit 1/4 inch drive. I've got it on the first screw there. You can just move that strut around inside, you know, with your hand through the fender and remove those screws from the top side through the center hole there. So the first screw I pulled out through the center hole. The second one actually lined up with one of these small holes towards the outside of the fender. And I'm reaching underneath with my left hand and unscrewing it with my right hand. And the screw was too big to go up through the hole, but I grabbed it up from underneath with my left hand. And there's number 2. Need to get number 3 out. All right, all 3 screws are out. I took the first one out through the center hole. Second one I went through this hole here using just a hand screwdriver with a 1/4 inch drive that has the 5/32 bit. So first one came out through here, second one came out through there, and I took the third one out through that hole there. And all I'm doing is underneath, just moving the strut around by hand to line up to those holes. All 3 are out. I used my floor jack to raise the whole assembly back up. Now it's not all the way up, it's still loose up there. And then on the top side, I just lightly put on all 3 of these nuts. And then once those are all in place, inside the fender here, reach in and grab the strut and pull it towards the outside of the car or away from the engine, if that makes sense. And that should put them back to the full outboard position like they were pinned from the factory. Time to tighten the nuts down on the top of the struts. The nuts at the top of the struts are supposed to be tightened to 46 pound-feet. I took the floor jack out and lowered the car back down to level where I can look over the top of the rotor. And now it's time to put everything back to normal. So we got to put in these 2 push pins again and connect the, I think that's the ABS sensor. So those 2 guys are back in. And we're looking at the front of the strut towards the front of the car now. And we got to get these 2 connectors, push pin connectors back in. This guy up top. And this guy down lower. Those are both back in. All right, using my foot pedal on the floor jack, I'm going to raise up the strut again to align this guy right here. Hopefully you can see it with the light in there. That's probably better. Get that lined up straight. There we go. I just pressed it up with my foot. And I'm going to get that nut on there and secure it. All right, this nut here, where it has the hex outer part that you got to hold on to, the Ford workshop manual calls for 85 pound-feet of torque. My torque wrenches don't fit on there because you know, you can't hold the outer hex head while I'm using my socket-based torque wrenches. So I'm just going pretty tight. Last up on the reassembly is this 13mm nut on the suspension height sensor. And the workshop manual calls for 177 inch-pounds. So we'll see if my little inch-pound torque wrench will find that setting. There we go, it clicked. Well, that's it. That's how you get the pins or screws out of the factory camber plates on a 2020 Shelby GT500. I've got the driver's side done. I got to do the same thing on the other side for the passenger side. And then next up is getting a track alignment and then taking this car out on the track. Thanks for watching. See you next time.